You want me to jump in, Az?
Yes, you can jump in and I can add along the way.
Yeah, so it's very important for everyone to understand Dorian is not a game publisher. It's not a game studio. It's a platform. So when you're thinking about us, think of us as being almost similar to more like an Instagram or a TikTok when it comes to laws about the content that is on our platform. When you upload your content onto Dorian, you're claiming ownership. That's like one of your things that you sign up for when you agree to the creator agreement. You are agreeing to this, okay? So we don't have as an ability within our team to like the ability to verify a creator's ownership over their work. They are saying they own it when they upload it. We do have a very clear community guideline that makes it clear, like, hey, if you upload stuff that is copyright infringement and someone files a takedown request for it with the DMCA request, we have to take that down. Okay. So like, this is exactly the same kind of policy you're going to see on any other platform about any type of copyright ownership. So, unlike a game studio, when you are supporting someone on Dorian, you're supporting an individual creator, right? So you get to choose who you support on Dorian. So, the big message that I want to communicate with everyone who's concerned about this topic is if your interest is in supporting artists, then there's a great opportunity for you here where you can go onto Dorian, find the artists that you like and want to support and support them. But it's not like Dorian can go, it's not like I as Jess can go look at a story and say, well, I as a human am deciding that this has AI art in it, so I'm going to take it down. That would actually be a violation of our community guidelines and also how the laws work about this content. So it's a very much a reflection of the positioning of like legal treatment of AI art. Currently, we have no way to verify whether something is AI or not. So if this is one of your things that you care about, please, put your money where your mouth is. If you want individual human artists to be making money, you can make that happen by going and supporting them and paying for their art. And actually, there's a ton of really fantastic artists on Dorian, some of which who are in this chat right now, who are making money off of their work in a new way that like never used to exist before Dorian as well.
I can say too. Sorry.
I was just gonna, as an artist, just say the same thing about there are many ways for artists to monetize their work on Dorian, aside from even just like within a game. We have the ability for artists to create prompts where they can allow the community to use that art and then profit from whatever that community ends up making. We have the opportunity to create individual prompts that individual writers can use within the platform. We have Tosha right now in the chat confirming that they get paid actual human money for putting pretty clothes on their blurbs. There are many ways, and again, as opposed to a studio where when you support one game from a studio, you support all games. Think of Dorian more like TikTok. When you support one creator, you support that creator and not all creators on the platform. You can really truly reward the creators that make the content that you want to see.
In that vein too, when this did come up like a week or two ago in our Discord server, we had like 5 different members of our staff looking over the content in question that was AI for probably about an hour, trying to figure out, is this AI? Is this not AI? At the moment, there's just also not really a way to tell, and you run the risk of kind of turning into a witch hunt and possibly hurting actual independent artists that are actually posting their own art by just assuming that it looks like AI or something like that. So just be mindful of how you approach people when you are assuming that they may or may not be using AI art, because you could be doing more damage than good. It's great to keep in mind that AI as a ethical question mark with how it takes its content from copyrighted material that artists have not consented to being part of that data pool. Keep that in mind if you are trying to use AI art. But also keep in mind when approaching artists you think might be using AI that you could be just kind of being mean to somebody.
Yeah, I think also, you know, it's important to remember that there are ways to use AI in art that are ethical. For example, uploading your own art. And so, you know, there are a lot of situations where people are literally uploading their own art and then using AI on it. So really, I would caution everyone to like take a breath before you react and consider, you know, if someone is active on Dorian, they're generally going to be already someone from a marginalized group who is working hard to try and, you know, create their space and get their voice heard. And like, if everyone, one of my favorite things to say is assume good intent. If everyone lives by that doctrine, our lives, all of us in this community will be much better, because like, I can tell you, I talk to these creators every single day, and the kind of joy and love for the craft that exists in this community, and including so many of these new Arcana creators, is really inspiring to see and incredible. And so like, I just want you all to appreciate how amazing these creators are. That should be our focus, is like, how do we celebrate and elevate our incredible creators?
Exactly.
I think to also continue to give the benefit of the doubt, people get upset about AI from a core of wanting to support independent artists that in some situations, in a lot of situations, AI is hurting. But also, like you said, before you react, take a step, take a breath.
Step back.
Yeah.
Talk to the person.
Evaluate the situation.
In a way that makes sense, in a way that is respectful, that opens conversation. And yes, but when it comes to allowing, not allowing position, unfortunately the laws when it comes to platforms versus publisher are very clear in the sense.
Yes. Which this is not relevant really to this conversation currently, but those laws are kind of being looked at and might change here very soon. And I encourage people to do their research on what that is going to look like, because this time next year we might be sitting here talking about how
something completely different.
Yes, just because the legality on it has changed. But to not spend too much time on that, so we can move on for other topics that people have brought up. And I think this is a great one, because this is kind of my biggest thing. Most of my critiques for the app have been kind of UI UX related, which for those unfamiliar with that term is user interface and user experience. Generally that includes things like what your stream window looks like right now is user interface. User experience is kind of how you navigate to that and what it's like to be in the stream and things like that. So I have a UI UX background, and I think that makes me a little more nitpicky than the rest. But also, I know that your app now is entirely different than what it was this time last year. And I also know how much time and effort it takes to make changes that drastic, and that a year is really not that much time to have made the changes that you guys have made. And then I also know that you guys were previously hiring for UI UX designers and back-end engineers, and I know that those job postings are not there anymore, so it seems like you guys kind of sort of recently hired people to be working on these things and will be making changes. So I'm not going to spend too much time making all of my UI UX things, because it's not worth it.
I just want to make a point here that we do have an amazing UX UI person in-house now, and actually we do have a feedback opportunity for people who are interested. So Laura, if this is an area you have a lot of experience in, we actually have a kind of minor club that we have for people who are particularly interested in UI and want to give feedback, and also get a chance to test new designs before they come out and things like that. So for people who are interested in that, and naturally, again, that is for respectful feedback, and feedback from people who understand that technical development works the way that it does. There is an opportunity to have your voice heard by Dorian there.
I think that's great, and I would love to participate in that, because I have so many thoughts. So many thoughts. One that I will mention is I hope by this time next year you guys have some web streaming capabilities, because this mobile setup has been very murderous to me, coming from what we usually do for ArcanaCon to trying to shift to like do this setup. It's been, I have, if you could see what my desk looks like right now and the setup that I have, it's kind of insane. But anyway, a more important,
you mean streaming to web, right? Because are you familiar that we can watch streams on web already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which I mean, I also, it'd be kind of nice to like be able to chat. I don't know if that's something that's on your docket coming up. I don't want to be that person that's like telling you to do something that you're in the middle of doing, because there's nothing that makes me less motivated to do something than that. But yeah, web streaming that I can do on my computer would be fantastic. Just putting that out there for next year. Thanks, guys. But a more important user experience question that has been on my mind, that I've been kind of experiencing more, that I've been using the app more to get prepared for ArcanaCon this weekend. I was a little bit sticker shocked by kind of the change in like pricing for premium content, I guess. I meant to actually sit down and do proper math numbers on this, but basically, if I'm remembering correctly, like chapters that cost 10 to 15 hearts end up being somewhere in the cost range of like $2 or something for a chapter, versus kind of what people are more used to in the Arcana app, which I think comes out to like 75 cents-ish to a chapter, based on kind of the cost of coins in that app and the cost of hearts in this app. Those are very rough numbers, don't quote me on those. But go ahead.
I do want to point out about that because we have, like, every story on Dorian is made by an independent creator, pricing is discretional, and it's something that each creator will set up independently based on a cost-benefit analysis that they made on how much effort and resources it takes them to produce that content. Many creators do stream their content on a regular basis to allow people who can't afford the premium content to attend. I do it every week. Every week when I premiere a new episode of my stories, I will read that live so that people who are invested in following the story along and can't afford the pay choices can attend. Many other people and users are always welcome to message their favorite streamers and encourage them to stream stories. Streamers love to stream stories that they know will bring them attendance. So getting requests is very valuable to both users, so they get to see what they want to see, and streamers so they get an understanding of what users want to see. But when it comes to evaluating sort of the price tag of each story, that will have to get that will be discretional for each creator.
Yeah, which even like on that vein as well, well, two things actually with that. That also means that creators are able to make their content free to play, or otherwise make their content like very cheap, but also means that you know, the coin, kind of, as Tasha said in the chat, maybe Nyx Hydra wouldn't go bankrupt if the fandom was paying them more, which is a fair point. The kind of if you're coming from the Arcana app previously made by Nyx Hydra, where Nyx Hydra was receiving the profits from keys and coin sales, that is very also different than how Dorian is set up, where creators that are setting heart prices are directly receiving those profits. So it's not just you know, I guess for some of the Arcana chapters, those are probably going to you guys, for people independently playing that are then purchasing choices. But it's, also I think Jess, kind of, you said in your stream. Thank you. I think there's like a slight delay in me getting heart notifications that you were seeing first. But Jess, like you were saying in your earlier panel for streaming on Dorian 101, if you're not worth kind of the cost of a cup of coffee, then
right.
there needs to be a conversation.
Yeah,
that said, I think.
Thank you, Danny.
Sorry, go ahead.
Wait, Solara, you can finish your thought because I have many thoughts on this. So I would
okay.
jump in.
So my final thought to that is that I think a cost of a cup of coffee at this point in the economy can still be considered like a high price point for a lot of people and where they are at financially. And I think there is a little bit of tension there between people who want to support artists but can't necessarily afford to support them that much. And so I think there's also some questions about how free to play friendly acquiring hearts is without having to put in a credit card number and purchase them. But we can kind of circle back around to that point if you have points that you want to hit first.
No, I think it's all connected to the same point, right? So the reason that Dorian exists is because we wanted to create a platform where you can have a direct relationship with your consumer as a creator. So the idea here is when I made Marrying the Villain, I purchased the art out of my own pocket. I invested a lot of my time into creating this content. And the only reason I can do that, I ended up writing a sequel. The only reason I could do the sequel was because enough people supported me that I made enough money back from the art that I had spent and the time I had spent that I could go do that forward, right? So when people are thinking about kind of like investing that money, what I really want people to think about is like, why is it that you feel that you should be able to consume this art for free? And I know, Solara, I'm not saying you as you. I mean, more just like generally, there's a culture of now within like the kind of online economy that we have this sense of like we're entitled to people's creative work without compensating them. So again, what I'm talking about is like if each of you spent $2 in your favorite store games on Dorian, you make a huge difference, right? Because there are so many of us. And that's the difference between an artist being able to make a living off of Dorian or not, right? Because there's some people who spend $200 and then there's some people who spend 50 cents. And all of it is together the stuff that makes people's livelihoods creatively, okay? And one of the things that's important to note is that, as mentioned, there's always an opportunity to play for free. You can play it live, literally just with one friend and play the whole thing for free. You also have some opportunities to grind to get some premium currency. We have a limited time thing that is dropping very soon that will give you even more chances to do this. But when Dorian gives away free currency, we still have to pay that to the creators, right? So those creators still need to get paid. So that's why it's not something where we can just say, okay, well, we're just going to give away all this stuff because then we're the ones who hold that bill for everything, right?
Yeah.
So in general, I believe that creators, digital content is labor. Creators deserve to make money. And, think about how much you spend on like a Netflix membership or an HBO membership, and that stuff goes to a big corporation and those creators don't get upside in general from that. Whereas on Dorian, when you spend it, like if my story becomes a hit, I get actual like upside from that. I'm making that money from that. So I think it's a general cultural thing we need to talk about. And I understand when fans are coming from the Nix Hydra model, that's part of why something like Nix Hydra is a lot harder to maintain than something like, a community like Dorian, right? Like Nix Hydra, with all of it was doing, it was able to release 3 episodes in 2021 in Arcana. And now we get 3 episodes published a day by amazing creators in this content. So like everyone supporting that with money is like why that happens, right? And even a company like Nix Hydra can't survive unless it's supported by the fans spending money, right?
And like somebody, Smorishita, I almost just really butchered that really bad. A good point, like that's exactly why there are a bunch of writers and actors on strike right now, because even the actors that are in the shows that you are watching on Netflix with your paid Netflix subscription are not receiving royalties for their work in those shows. That wouldn't exist without them in it or writing it behind the scenes.
Earlier in the chat, we had Dorian creators. Are you okay, Jess?
Yeah, just inhaled my water a little bit. It's okay.
Earlier in the chat, we had creators on Dorian sharing with us what they're getting paid to create and what they're working on, and they're working extremely hard. One of the people right now in the chat is the artist on my project, Faking It, and I am impressed by how hard they work. We produce new outfits, new backgrounds, everything on a weekly basis. We release once a week, rain or shine, and we are able to do that because we have such an amazing community backing us up. We essentially, at the end of the day, our story has a mystery in it. You'll be able to solve the mystery whether you pay money or not, but our premium choices are very similar to what creators offer on a platform like Kickstarter or Patreon. It's unlikely to find people on Patreon asking creators how free to access their Patreon content is, because there's an understanding that that is the reason Patreon exists. Mm-hmm. Dorian is the same.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. In that vein, can we talk a little bit about, can I pick your brains a little bit about how monetization works on Dorian for people that are interested in maybe becoming creators on the platform, but A, not sure how to get started, B, not sure kind of what goes into that, C, not sure what that means for kind of the ownership of their IPs, things like that.
Before we dive into this, could we move into the story part of this script? This lobby does not look as nice in some of the other formats as our beautiful, beautiful in-game play does. So I want to make sure we move into that for anyone who's watching on the Arcana.
Oh yes, that is my bad.
As was hosting. Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that's me.
I forgot I was the one who was actually hosting. Oops.
Starting. Yay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Look at how pretty that is. I can jump in to talk a bit about like how revenue share and creation and monetization works on Dorian. So Dorian, as a platform, what we provide is we provide technical infrastructure, distribution of your game to an audience, an art library, monetization tools with which by the way is no small feat. Monetization tools for a massive community is a lot. We also give you incredible amounts of analytics. So you have like a full analytics system. We give you more analytics than Amazon offers Kindle creators. Okay. Like Amazon has this data, but they don't give that to their creators because it's a lot of data and it's a really valuable resource. And we give it to our creators for free. And we also offer editorial insights, community management, social media support. We offer a lot of things on Dorian's side with the agreement that creators can use all of those features to create games that don't require any coding and then use them to make money. And so when revenue is made, we split it 50-50. And that's important because if you hear that, what you should really hear is Dorian doesn't make money unless you make money as a creator. That means we're super invested in you making money. That is like my dream of everything is like when I'm talking to new creators, I want you to make money. We only make money if you make money. So that's our revenue share. And one of the things that I want to say is that's very different from, I've heard a lot of discussion in the community about the concept of, staff writers or writers who are hired by a company. And I've been a staff writer at many companies. And so when you have that kind of either in-company or freelance writing agreement, you get paid your fee for writing something. But let's say I wrote one of the top games on a comparable app that I will not name. And my name is not attached to it because I wrote it for the company. So they put someone else's name on it. And it has made millions of dollars at this point. And I've never seen, I think I was paid something like $200 for most of the content for the first season. Okay. It was really, really low pay. And I've never, ever seen another dime from it, right? Whereas on Dorian, that half of that would be mine. And it would be under my name. And I would have creative control. And I would own my IP. So that's why it's really important what we're doing here in comparison with that kind of more traditional model of hired writers. Thank you, Julia, for the hearts.
Thank you. Also, I'm going to quickly cut in here just to say that we have 15 minutes left on this panel as a time check, because ADHD, time blindness. I like time checks for that reason. But yes,
I wanted to actually add something to it. Jess shared her experience working as a staff writer. Before joining Dorian, I was attached to a visual novel project that was supposed to be fully independently produced. I was handling the marketing side of things, and the level, like the amount of overhead investment that we had to invest into this project, to market it so it would have an audience, to figure out how to monetize it, to distribute it on mobile, because distributing on mobile gives you a much wider reach than distributing on desktop, to pay our artist, who is Tosha in the chat, to do all the parts associated with it. It became impossible. We would have had to tank most of our personal savings of a lifetime in order to get this to come to life. And even with crowdfunding, it wasn't really feasible, because none of us had a platform that would allow, with a following, that would allow us to raise this money. We were not influencer, we were not online personalities. So being able, like on Dorian, I ended up monetizing on my first month. I made a positive, a net gain at the end of my first month on the platform. I had to spend zero overhead on 3 projects that I've worked on so far. So when it comes, it's good for staff writers coming into Dorian. It's good for independent creators coming into Dorian. The difference is, I can't even begin. Like, it took us a year to have a demo for our old game. It took me a month to have 10 chapters on Dorian.
I spent about an entire year writing a novel, and that has never literally gone anywhere. I think 2 people have read it at this point, and my game on Dorian Marrying the Villain has as much content in it. I wrote it. I was able to get the first 6 episodes out in the first month and already start making money off of it. And it got to a point where I had people making me playlists on Spotify about it. I had people writing me DMs on Instagram about it. So the comparison between this and any other kind of writing I've done before is just incomparable. It's just from a monetary standpoint, but also from a soul standpoint is what I want to say. It's just, the audience is there waiting for you, and you get to connect with them immediately, which is incredibly meaningful.
So also kind of in the vein of monetized content on Dorian, a lot of the content on Dorian that tends to be paid for options tends to be of the spicy persuasion, and there are lots of conversations surrounding that. I would definitely say that it seems like Dorian allows a higher level of spice than Nyx Hydra did, but both apps are rated 13 plus to be in the App Store, I believe. Can you kind of talk about how that works and what you guys do?
The Arcana is 12, Dorian is PG-13, to be specific. Just, do you want to answer? Should I answer?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I want to say that it wouldn't be accurate to say that the majority of the paid options are spicy. Actually, that is that is a portion of the paid options, but a lot of our top games have I think my game has literally 2 spice options out of about 50 premium options in the game.
I just seem to gravitate towards all the spicy ones. That
I know. It tells us something about ourselves and our habits, right? Listen, I like the spicy options. I pay for them. But yeah, so let's be clear, our content obeys PG-13 guidelines. Steamy content is tagged. You can filter it out. You never have to be exposed to it. The age ratings on apps, we don't give ourselves age ratings. The app stores give us age ratings based on our geographic location, and it's determined by the app store. We're not the ones who say we're 13 plus. Google Play and Apple say that to us. So I think it's kind of this conversation is a little it's not even related to something that's under our control. It's someone who is an authority on what our app should be rated has rated it that way. And we make sure that everything is behind paywalls. It is positioned such that, we do not expect any kids to get access to it. But honestly, if a kid is using Dorian, that's not something we can prevent. Like they're not allowed, they're not supposed to be able to get it if they're under 13. So, and I would remind everyone that the internet does exist. You can see things that are much more scandalous off of Dorian than anything you can see on Dorian in some text on Dorian, you know.
I mean, explicit websites usually, they usually have some kind of, are you 18? Yes or no? And they have no way of verifying if you're giving them correct information when you hit that button. That's just as much as they can ask. So
yes, definitely. Plus we have like, aside from the fact that yes, everything is tagged and can be filtered out, multiple of our stories that include, and this is up to the individual creators to add additional disclaimer if they so wish, if they believe that it is appropriate for their content. We believe that every creator knows their content best, and it's up to them based on their audience to disclaim whatever they wish to disclaim.
Okay, I'm going to change pace here a little bit since we only have a couple minutes left. There are definitely some questions here related to the Arcana, and I want to make sure we touch at least a few of those. Arcana and fictive, I guess. I think people are wondering kind of what the future of those apps are, especially fictive. A lot of things are kind of were left dangling. Do you guys have any like information on where you plan to go with those?
Should I or should you?
Yeah, Az, go ahead. I think you.
Okay. It's okay. So essentially, specifically for fictive, we're still weighing different options. We really do want to take as much learnings as possible from our experience with the Arcana before we move forward with fictive. Either way, because I've seen this asked a lot, every new content will be on the Dorian app, and it will be done in collaboration with independent creators. Dorian is not a studio, and we truly believe that our independent creators are exceptionally talented. We have seen it. It's in the numbers. Just to give you a sense, fan-made, so independent, I would call them independently created stories for the Arcana have performed significantly better than official content that has been produced in the past, specifically the tales that were released. Jess, do you want to share some intel on that? I know you had interesting...
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that I wanted to share was basically that, you know, our top properties, missing some of like the top properties that you'll see on Dorian include Missing Moments, Gladiator's Apprentice, Missing Moments by Morella Nimmermeyer, Gladiator's Apprentice by Ava Lee, Juliana's Route by CK, also Az's Properties, who is here with us. Azra and Julian the Route, Modern Arcana Faking It, Julian's New Apprentice by Jasper Thorne. We have so many amazing new community generated stories, and those are generally like outperforming dramatically against the official versions that we had on we created on Dorian. So when you think about those tales that we created, it was actually these stories are outperforming in terms of the numbers of reads they generate and also how much money they generate. So it's pretty clear that the fans are here and ready to actually like not only read this content but support it with their money.
A large part of the reason we do ArcanaCon is because we have always felt that there's a very large amount of talent in this fandom, and we've always wanted to showcase that in whatever ways we could, which is also part of why when you guys approached us like, hey, we are interested in kind of doing some events with you guys, I was like, yeah, okay, like that's a common mission we're both behind, I think. But in terms of that, lots of questions about courtier tales when. I don't know if that's actually a plan or like for side characters or anything. Do you guys have any plans that you can talk about for kind of canon side character content?
So when it comes to all of this, once again, we are not necessarily ruling out anything at this point, almost anything. Of course, the two big things when it comes to like what we will stick to is every new content will be produced on Dorian and in collaboration with independent creators. That is like, at this point, there are different things that we are considering. Hopefully we'll get to talk about it very soon in the future. But regardless, this will be the format. It will be on Dorian. It will be in collaboration with independent creators.
Okay, so in the vein of new content, how about new merchandise?
Same. Okay, when it comes to new merchandise, actually, we have a few ideas that we are working on, and we are hoping to be able to announce sometime soon. And in the meantime, you can definitely expect to keep seeing the bestseller items be restocked. We're not abandoning merch. We have we have plans surrounding merch that we are hoping to share as soon as we have more information together.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there was like anxiety surrounding like merch being abandoned. Nothing is being abandoned. We're very.
I'm not sure why people are nervous about that. I haven't gotten that feeling, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, I think an important last thing to hit with our last 3 minutes that we have before I need to take a pee break and then go over to our other voice acting panel. Updating the official Arcana app. I, from a programming perspective that I have that a lot of people probably don't have, I understand why that's not quite happening, but do you guys kind of want to speak on that in general?
By updating, you mean sharing content to it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions about why like new canon content like the new tales and stuff are not going up on the official Arcana app, why they're only accessible on the Dorian app.
I mean, I can jump in just to say that, you know, Dorian's goal is to create Dorian and invest in independent creators. So we are here. That is where our attention is. We, as I just said, like, you know, you as the independent creators are the ones who are getting the reads and making money right now, not Dorian's official, which, by the way, were written by a Nyx Hydra writer. You as the community members have all done better than that Nyx Hydra writer. That's amazing. You should celebrate that. And that's what we're invested in, is helping these creators be successful on Dorian. So there is no plan to put those on the Arcana. Dorian works great to consume that content. It's all here right now. Lots of people are already consuming it. So that's what we're invested in, is getting that content on Dorian and helping them grow and get results from their work.
And just to put it out there, because I think the biggest concern I've heard from anyone that's nervous about Dorian's acquisition of this IP, if there are not plans to update canon content on the Arcana app specifically, that does not necessarily mean that there are plans to eventually remove the Arcana app. Is that correct? Okay.
We have no plans for that right now. Like, there's nothing like that. You know, there's still a lot of people who have never played the Arcana. So I think a lot of people in this community forget that, like, there's a lot of people out in the world who have never discovered the Arcana, and we still want people to discover the Arcana because, hey, what I care about is my independent creators getting that value and getting discovered. I love them. I want them to become famous. And people who discover the Arcana also discover those lovely creators. So right now, there's no plans. Like, the app is not in danger right now. We have no plans for anything regarding that.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So for a final note, for anybody that's watching on Twitch and not on Dorian, for reasons that are of concern of Dorian, don't feel like don't feel like anyone's trying to take your app away from you. We're still going to be around here enjoying this game next year because it's not going anywhere. And yeah, just for the alarmists that are concerned about like all the things. Yes. So yeah, that brings us to the top of the hour. Are there any last couple minute things that you guys any closing remarks, anything like that before we head over to our voice acting panel that's happening next?
I'd just like to say, if you haven't already played one of these community-generated stories, please take the time to go do at least one. I think you will look at the Arcana shelf on Discover, and you can find really amazing work that I think is... try Az's modern Arcana game. It is so good. I cannot express, and listen, like, I've been doing this for a really long time. I've worked with professional writers all over the world, and I see that people who are creating this content are better than those writers. And if you are still sitting somewhere saying, oh, it's community content, they are better. And if you haven't read them yet, I don't want to hear you talking about it, because they deserve your support. Okay. They deserve it. Yeah. All right, Az, now that I've ranted.
Thank you for that. Oh, Julia, also thank you. Yeah, no, Julia is actually right. Faking it is also great for people who are entirely new to the Arcana, don't know the characters, don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
All right, I think that we went through everything.
I just lost connection between my phone and my computer that is streaming this panel to Twitch. So I think that's technology telling me that it's time to cut this panel, bring it to an end and a close. So we're going to miss this tail end, but that's fine. Thank you guys for coming, and I hope that answered a lot of questions.
Thanks for hosting this.
Yeah.
Thanks for allowing me to host this. I'm glad that we were able to have an open conversation, and being willing to have open DMs and things like that. Because like I said, that's a mess. Speaking of DMs, I have to start the Twitch voice acting panel, and then Rezi, I'm going to immediately DM you on Instagram. I also need to find time to pee in between all the things. So thank you guys for joining us. We're going to go switch over
and by
to...
the way, everyone watching the ArcanaCon, please feel free to join us on our in-character panel that's starting in an hour and a half. It's going to be me, Hollow, Shinorizu, Bondage Bird, Winter Phoenix, and Simply Nate.
Sincerely, Nate.
Thank you for the hearts, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the hearts, everyone.
Thank you.
See you all very soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.